Break out your stethoscope and listen up, Doc. I'm about to lay down 3 things a registered dietitian does better than a medical doctor. If a pipe bursts in your bathroom, do you call a plumber or an electrician? Both trades require specialized skills and involve fixing things in the home. But does that make an electrician qualified to do a plumber's job? No, of course it doesn't. So why do so many people trust medical doctors over dietitians when it comes to what they should be eating? Doctor, a qualified practitioner of medicine, a physician, dietitian, an expert on diet and nutrition. These definitions speak for themselves, so I could technically end the video right here. Just kidding. You didn't think you were getting off that easy, did you? Both doctors and dietitians study the science behind human health. But just as an electrician can't fix your toilet's busted pipe, doctors can't fix your diet. They may have some knowledge about nutrition, but it's no match for that of a registered dietitian nutritionist. RDs like me eat, sleep, and breathe nutrition. Dietitians hold at least a bachelor's degree in a nutrition-related field and complete 1,200 hours of supervised practice in a variety of settings. We also pass a national board exam and must complete continuing education to maintain our credential. Compare this to medical students who receive on average 24 hours of nutrition ed. That's the equivalent of 1 day. I don't care how intelligent you are, you can't master anything in a single day. Not to mention that what they do learn is super condensed. It's the Cliff Notes of nutrition. And anyone who has ever used Cliff Notes knows the information is crammed into your short-term memory, regurgitated on a test, and forgotten forever.
Forget it!
Memorization is not the same as application. And when it comes to nutrition knowledge, dietitians apply, doctors get by. I want to preface this video by saying that I am not hating on doctors. Some doctors are actually well versed in nutritional sciences and make reasonable evidence-based recommendations, like my personal faves. But unfortunately, there are plenty of bad apples in the bunch. You should eat an apple a day to keep these docs away, because they're the ones who make bold claims about diet before trying to sell you some BS quick fix. The only weight you'll lose from their products is the weight of the coins in your pocket. Frauds and scammers aside, I don't want to discount your primary care physician's role in disease management. Doctors are authoritative figures in the medical field and deserve respect. But with all due respect, they need to check up on their egos and refer to the real diet experts when a situation calls for complex nutrition care or lifestyle modification. Now let's get into it. A surgeon may save your life, but a dietitian can save you and your wallet from suffering through an unnecessary fad diet. And for the record, if a surgeon ever did save your life and you needed a feeding tube in the ICU, we'd save you from dying of starvation, but that's besides the point. As an RD, part of my job is to stay on top of emerging nutrition trends. Unlike Keto Karen, dietitians don't formulate opinions from biased media outlets. Instead, we turn to the scientific literature. Reading and interpreting research is part of the curriculum to become an RD. And after passing the national board exam, we're required to complete ongoing continuing education to maintain our credential. That includes staying up to date on the latest research. I'm a nutrition nerd, so I read scientific journals for fun anyway.
Nerd!
Now, it may seem like a lame hobby, but it definitely helps me out at weddings when someone inevitably asks what I do for a living at cocktail hour. Saying you're a dietitian almost always results in an unsolicited game of 20 questions to figure out what the best diet is. But I don't really mind because dietetics is part of my personality. It's not just my profession. I'm pretty much incapable of going anywhere without saying the phrase, everything in moderation. And thanks to cherry-picked data, Netflix documentaries, Joe Rogan's podcast, and TikTok, I'm usually as popular as the bride. A doctor has to complete continuing medical education to maintain their physician license too. However, they probably aren't using their free time to research the science behind popular diet trends like intermittent fasting or investigating the fat-burning claims behind green coffee bean extract. Unless, of course, they're pushing BS products to profit off of your vulnerability. Cue Dr. Oz! The biggest fake of them all, the scammer behind the curtain. Dietitians uphold a code of ethics set by the Commission on Dietetic Registration. The only thing we're selling is nutrition education. And believe me, y'all need it. Everyone wants to know about the latest weight loss hack or trending superfood, especially when it's endorsed by a celebrity doctor. There's so much conflicting info floating on the internet, social media, television, and magazines, it can be extremely overwhelming to the average person who has no formal background in nutrition. Dietitians are literally trained in school and during our internship to filter information and separate fact from fiction. So when you've got questions, we've got evidence-based answers. I guess you could say I use my nutrition BS to call out the nutrition BS. I have a master's though. Usually, the answer to any given nutrition question is, it depends. And as disappointing as that may be, it depends is actually a sign of a good practitioner. Dietitians understand that we are all unique snowflakes with different genetic, social, and environmental considerations. So what works for one person may not work for another. Sound advice like balance and moderation may not sell as well as fear-mongering headlines, but it's the honest truth. People want to be told exactly what to eat, or they want us to say there's some sort of magic green elixir that will solve all of their problems. Unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to weight loss or good health. If that were the case, there would not be an obesity epidemic. Dr. Atkins may have looked good on paper, but his cookie-cutter program and protein shakes won't make everyone look like Jennifer Aniston. Let the doctor order the weight loss prescription meds and leave the weight loss plans and healthy shakes to the dietitian. You probably know a dietitian can help you drop a pant size, but did you know we can also help you drop your triglycerides and A1C without giving up your favorite foods? Doctors are taught general nutrition recommendations, but RDs understand the complexities of medical nutrition therapy that extend far beyond surface-level recommendations to eat more fruits and vegetables. Most doctors know a patient should count carbohydrates if they have diabetes, eat low-fat for heart disease, and reduce sodium for high blood pressure. That's all well and good, but there are a multitude of medical conditions requiring specific nutrition interventions that doctors know little to nothing about. Take, for example, thyroid conditions, autoimmune disorders, cancers, and inborn errors of metabolism, among many others. Dietitians understand how to manage these conditions through diet. We teach patients how to cope with dietary restrictions, food allergies, and intolerances in order to meet their nutritional needs. The condition and therapy could be as common as helping someone with lactose intolerance get enough calcium, or as rare as helping someone with PKU avoid protein deficiency. To further complicate MNT, the biochemistry of food and nutrients can elicit different responses in different individuals, depending on their unique physiology. So, the standard nutrition recommendation for a given condition may actually be contraindicated in some patients who have multiple diagnoses. This is uncharted territory for medical doctors who receive very little, if any, education in personalized or precision nutrition. And considering their overwhelming schedules, doctors are usually too busy to notice subtle signs of nutrition-related problems in their patients, especially malnutrition amongst clinically obese patients. Most people, doctors included, falsely assume that if someone is overweight or obese, they are overeating and overnourished. Clinical obesity and chronic malnutrition often coincide, especially in bariatric patients and those who have recently lost a significant amount of weight. Just because someone has a high body mass index doesn't mean they shouldn't be screened for nutrient inadequacies. But doctors tend to let the obese fall through the cracks due to inherent weight bias. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'll even provide a reference. Dietitians, on the other hand, have an eye for nutrition-related problems. We are trained to perform nutrition-focused physical examinations on patients we suspect may be lacking in nutrients, and we know what questions to ask to pinpoint specific areas of concern. It is within our scope of practice to diagnose malnutrition based on physical signs and symptoms, blood work, weight history, and eating patterns assessed via dietary recall. We also detect red flags that may indicate behavioral issues with food, like disordered eating or full-fledged eating disorders. There's a difference. Along those lines, we identify low food security in patients and clients who may be eligible for government food assistance programs like SNAP or WIC. We refer to a clinical psychologist or social worker if a case extends beyond our scope of practice. Knowing when to step back and trust another member of the interdisciplinary team team can have a profound impact on patient outcomes. Yet many doctors don't refer to a dietitian when a case warrants advanced nutrition care. As a healthcare provider who has the patient's best interest at heart, you need to put your ego aside. Sometimes that means relying on another professional's expertise. In RD. I wrote cough cough. Can you even make cough cough jokes since COVID? Asking for a friend. Other times, it means letting the patient call the shots, or at the very least, give them the option to seek alternative care. Doctors tend to forget that every person is an expert of their own life. To put it bluntly, many, not all, but many doctors do not respect patient autonomy. They tell people exactly what to do and which drugs to take in which amounts. They hand out generic nutrition advice in the same manner. Literally, they give patients handouts of example meal plans with no context. But even the perfect nutrition plan fails if it doesn't align with a patient and their way of life. More on that in just a bit. Besides genetics and medical history, effective nutrition interventions take into consideration an individual's health literacy, socioeconomic status, cultural and religious dietary practices, and food preferences. All things a doctor doesn't have time to inquire about. So their tip sheet on how to lower fasting blood sugar is not going to be helpful to someone newly diagnosed with prediabetes who doesn't understand what a carbohydrate is. Just like a suggestion to give up processed foods is probably unrealistic for a busy college student living on a budget, and a recommendation to eat fatty fish for heart health won't have any impact on a picky eater who gags at the smell of seafood. I'm not saying all doctors ignore their patients or overstep dietitians by giving improper diet orders, but unfortunately it is a very common occurrence in both clinical and outpatient settings. A good MD or DO acknowledges the limitations of med school and refers their patients to an RD who has spent on average 5 to 7 years just studying nutrition, plus their years in actual practice. Like doctors, registered dietitians are licensed healthcare professionals who assess patients' individualized needs and provide expert care. It's just in the form of a nutrition prescription versus a drug prescription. Let food be thy medicine. Speaking of medicine, that brings me to point number 3. Doctors are experts in medicine. Dietitians are experts in, well, diet. But also in sustainable lifestyle change. A doctor is taught to follow the traditional healthcare model: assess, diagnose, prescribe. Medicine has its place, but it often acts as a band-aid, covering up the real problem that can only be solved by modifying behavior. Most doctors acknowledge that medicine should be used in conjunction with lifestyle modification, but that doesn't mean they know how to motivate their patients to make a change. In the case of heart disease, for example, they may write the patient a prescription for a statin, order them to follow a heart-healthy diet, and recommend that they get 150 minutes of physical activity each week to decrease their risk of having a heart attack. Good talk, but no plan to walk. Doctors' orders tell you what to do, but the doctor can't help you get there. It's like someone giving you an address without directions. You may not know what direction to head in, and you may worry about getting lost. So you never leave your current location. In a similar way, a patient who doesn't even exercise 15 minutes a week may perceive 150 minutes as impossible. They may get so overwhelmed that they give up before they even give it a try. Not to mention, facts and directives won't make a difference without willingness to change behavior. Most patients are not going to suddenly become motivated by a doctor's generic recommendation. Commonly, a patient will take the prescription, but ignore the diet and exercise recommendation. The doctor brushes off the non-compliance of lifestyle modification and does his due diligence by refilling the script every 30 days. A statin may help an overweight patient with heart disease avoid a heart attack, but does it have the ability to improve their overall quality of life? Imagine if that patient were to take their medication in combination with dietary and exercise interventions. Not only would they decrease the likelihood of premature death, but they'd be fit enough to chase their grandkids around the backyard or even climb a beautiful Hawaiian summit. Behavior change isn't easy. That's why it requires a wellness professional, i.e., a registered dietitian who is trained in motivational interviewing techniques and strategies. A case of patient noncompliance can be solved if you ask the right questions. You can unearth inner motivation and prompt someone to voice what is truly important to them. Most people are more likely to initiate a change when they realize their behaviors are not in line with their values. So, dietitians ask open-ended questions to open someone's eyes to reality, to make the person self-aware of the fact that what they say they want is not supported by what they are currently doing. Here's an example of how I use wellness coaching techniques alongside my regular dietetic practice to elicit desired behavioral change, going off of our scenario of the patient with heart disease. Let's name our patient Harry. Harry is a 59-year-old blue-collar worker who was approaching retirement. His doctor referred him to me. Good doctor! After his recent blood work showed elevated cholesterol and triglycerides. Even though he's taking his medication, Harry is not complying with the diet and exercise guidelines. After providing nutrition education and discussing the importance of regular physical activity, I sense that Harry is not very motivated to make a change. Rather than shove him out the door because healthcare is a business and I have to see X amount of patients in X amount of minutes, I ask about his current habits as well as his aspirations. Harry tells me that he eats a lot of greasy food at work and sits around a lot at home. When I inquire about his life goals, Harry tells me he wants to see his grandchildren grow up and dreams of taking his wife to Hawaii to experience the Haleakala sunrise for their 40th wedding anniversary. My job as an RD and National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach is to point out the discrepancy between his behavior and his aspirations. Harry's avoidance of physical activity and poor dietary habits are not very supportive of his values as a family man who wants to make memories with his loved ones. He can't be present for his grandchildren if he's in poor health. And he certainly would not have the exercise capacity to hike 11 miles, 10,023 feet above sea level. I could bring this discrepancy to his attention with a statement like, on one hand, you want to be alive and well to make memories with your family. On the other hand, being sedentary and eating fast food put your heart at risk. Without a healthy heart, you may not be physically capable of living a long, adventurous life. What are your thoughts? In an aha moment, Harry admits he can't even walk up the steps without getting winded, and he knows he needs to make a change. This is called change talk, aka the yellow brick road to change. And for the record, the yellow brick road in this analogy does not lead to Dr. Oz.
You are really great and powerful. You keep your promises.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz? You ungrateful creatures!
Harry is now coming to terms with reality and expressing self-motivation to commit to change. Nevertheless, how we go about it can make or break the intervention. A person is more likely to execute a plan they set for themselves, on their terms, rather than a plan set by someone else, i.e. their doctor. Having no or minimal involvement in the treatment decision-making process is a major reason why patients fail with the traditional healthcare model. Unlike his PCP, I don't tell Harry what to do. Instead, I ask more questions to help him establish a self-directed action plan. Like, how might you avoid the temptation of ordering fast food at work? Considering this obstacle to eating better, Harry says he actually prefers his wife's healthy home-cooked meals. He only orders fast food for convenience since he's usually in a rush in the morning and doesn't have time to pack his lunch. Just by talking it out, he realized a simple solution could be packing a to-go container with leftovers when he and his wife are cleaning up after dinner, so he can just grab it and go the next morning. When I encourage him to brainstorm ideas of how he might start to incorporate movement at home, he tells me he can toss the football around in the yard with his grandsons rather than watch them play from the back step. Harry, who was resistant to change at the start of our session, is now excited to start the plan that he himself came up with, adding in that he'll be making memories with his family and saving money on food that can instead go toward his Hawaiian getaway. Goodbye, heart disease Harry! Hello, Harry, hiker of Haleakala! Now, obviously, this is an abbreviated hypothetical situation. If I were coaching a real-life client like Harry, this would just be the beginning. In addition to establishing the long-term goal, we'd set smaller short-term goals in the meantime and work toward those incremental goals using clear, actionable steps that are bound by time. For example, since Harry knows he wants to climb a huge mountain on his anniversary in 3 years, we'd set some smaller goals to climb some smaller mountains in the years leading up to his planned vacation. And given the fact that Harry tires easily at his current fitness level, we'd start with the basics, like walking leisurely at the park. Then we'd work up to incline walking on a treadmill, and eventually taking on a beginner-friendly hike. It's all about meeting someone where they are and tailoring the plan to their specific needs. With any goal, short or or long term. There should be a heavy emphasis on accountability to increase the likelihood of success. That's because you're less likely to abandon your goals when you have to report to someone. This might be weekly check-ins with a coach or even a friend or family member with similar goals who acts as an accountability partner. Harry might train for the Haleakala hike with his wife as an accountability partner perhaps, since they'd both need to get in shape for it by a specific date. No matter who you hold yourself accountable to, I highly suggest you do not choose your PCP. Due to the demands of modern healthcare, your doctor is overworked. They don't have time to inquire about you, coach you, or monitor your progress. Seeing your doctor for 20 to 30 minutes once a year for your annual well visit is not enough to hold you accountable. If you want to succeed, invest in a coach. Not just any coach, but a professional, licensed wellness expert. Not a medicine expert, but a behavioral change specialist. Dietitians who specialize in wellness coaching respect client autonomy and one's ability to make their own decisions. We help someone identify their values, purpose, and aspirations to establish SMART goals, as you saw with hypothetical Harry. We then coach them through a self-directed action plan to achieve those goals in a realistic, sustainable fashion. I did a whole video on SMART goals. You're going to want to check it out after this. Link in the description. This is not a sales pitch for my services, but my clients have phenomenal success because I incorporate wellness coaching into their nutrition program. Nutrition is the whole grain bread and butter of what I do, but diet is just one aspect of wellness. Lifestyle change is complex and multifaceted. You have to work with someone who is willing to get to know you on a personal level and actually cares about you as a person, not just your height, weight, and medical history. I know my clients' pets' names and what they ate for breakfast. The clients, not the pets. I've coached them through birthday parties and traveling overseas. And in real time, I've talked the client off the edge after he forgot his meal prep for a 12-hour hospital shift. It's nice to have a dietitian at your disposal when you're in a pinch at Wawa. All this to say, effective coaching can make or break your weight loss efforts. Hire a dietitian who not only provides nutrition education and a diet plan, but knows how to support you and hold you accountable to that plan. My clients don't fall off the wagon because I'm there to catch them. I also celebrate their successes and point out small victories when motivation inevitably dies down and they find it hard to keep going. I barely scratch the surface when it comes to wellness coaching and sustainable lifestyle change. If you'd like to learn more about specific wellness coaching strategies and motivational interviewing techniques, let me know in the comments section and I'll make a full video just on that topic. But as it relates to this video about what doctors don't know as well as dietitians, doctors don't know you as a person. They know your medical condition and what prescription to write. They don't understand diet trends or complex medical nutrition therapy, and many of them don't understand that the letters MD or DO are not nutrition credentials and do not make someone qualified to speak about diet or push BS health products. Before you drink a shake from Dr. Atkins or boycott carbs because a doctor said so, ask a real diet expert. Consult a registered dietitian. That's it for today, Health Nuts. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the Strong RD YouTube channel to learn more nutrition and sustainable lifestyle change from a qualified nutrition expert. This video got a little heated, but I promise my content is usually lighthearted nutrition edutainment. Check out this video for some comedic relief. And as always, thanks for watching. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to eat my apple a day to keep Dr. Oz away. Apple a day to keep Dr. Oz away.